Favorite crime movie? Go.
Crime movie?
Crime movie.
Baby Driver. No, I don't.
Son of a bitch.
Probably this movie, to be honest.
Son of a bitch.
I haven't seen Godfather, so I can't say that movie.
Fucking you, son of a bitch.
It'd probably be Godfather because I've heard it's just fantastic, but I haven't seen it. So
you disappointed me. Let's just talk about The Irishman.
No, don't change the subject. What's yours?
My favorite crime movie is probably American Gangster.
American Gangster. I don't think I've seen that either.
It's American Gangster or like Goodfellas, because those are the right answers.
I haven't seen Goodfellas either.
Son of a bitch.
Frank Sheeran. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you said right.
Under the contract, management can only fire a driver on very specific charges. So, you ever show up late?
No.
Do you have any moving violations?
Let's talk about The Irishman.
The Irishman.
Martin Scorsese's return to the crime mobster gangsta genre, and he brings along some friends. Robert De Niro comes back. Joe Pesci. Al Pacino is the first time. This is the first time Martin Scorsese and Al Pacino have actually worked together.
I thought Al Pacino was I was gonna say maybe first time they've worked together, but I was gonna say he's in The Godfather, which is a crime.
That's not a but that's not a Martin Scorsese movie.
Yeah, I was gonna correct you on it. It was his first crime movie.
Fucking correct me.
He's in Goodfellas.
Son of a bitch. No, Al Pacino's not in Goodfellas.
Who's in Goodfellas?
Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci are in Goodfellas.
Yes, that's who's in.
Son of a bitch.
Sorry, I haven't seen that.
Devin, what are your thoughts on The Irishman?
I thought this movie was actually fan-fucking-tastic. And I was actually quite surprised with how much I liked it. Because I thought going in, I was like, this might actually be boring to me because it's so long and it's so intimidatingly long. But I actually went in and I was into it the whole time. Like the whole 3 hours and 30 minutes. I was like, let's just go. Let's keep going. That and I knew who Jimmy Hoffa was. So I kind of like, I put stuff together, stuff like that. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. How'd you feel about it?
I really loved it. I wouldn't say it's perfect. I definitely do have some gripes with it that I think are going to keep it from being like my number one of the year. It's still definitely going to be in my top 10 because I'm not an asshole. It's a great film and it's Martin Scorsese at the top of his game. But there are definitely some flaws with it that I had. It's not a perfect movie, but if I was to give it like a ranking or whatever, I would give it like an 8 or a 9. Like it's still like top tier, like masterclass. But it's just like there's some stuff that just kind of kept it back for me. I thought all the cast was great, especially Al Pacino, who stole the fucking show. He was so funny and charismatic, and he was calling people cocksuckers left and right, and he was so loud and just screaming at everybody. I was like, he's having the time of his life.
He for sure was my favorite part of the movie.
He was awesome. Him as Jimmy Hoffa, like that was great casting.
It was amazing. I would say right now it's my movie of the year, but I haven't seen everything that you've seen. So right now for me, it's the movie of the year. Personally,
that's fine.
I didn't see like The Lighthouse and stuff like that, so I can't say.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. I mean, I still don't know what this could end up being my favorite movie of the year, but I just think the flaws keep it. The flaws that I have kind of keep it from being number one. It's still going to be like top tier.
What do you want me to go first on flaws, or do you want to go first?
I want to hear what flaws that you have.
My biggest thing was I kind of thought there was too many people in this movie. That's my biggest flaw.
I'll agree with that. That's definitely one that I had. I think there's too many characters that they just kind of pass by, and like they're in one scene and they're important, but we never see them ever again.
Like they name drop these people, and then like they disappear for a little bit and come back, and I'm like, I've seen that guy, but I don't know who this is.
Yeah, like sometimes they'll pause on a person and they'll give them like the name and then like the date that they die and how they died, but they're only in that one scene and then they never come up ever again. So I'm like, why do we waste time like on this fucking guy? Which
I guess if you're like historically accurate and people like not historically accurate, but people who know the story a lot better than I do because I wasn't alive when it happened, they'd be like, oh, that guy, I've seen that guy on the news and stuff like that.
Maybe I'd rather not have that. And
like we have characters that show up at like the 2 hour mark and like they just show up and then they're part of the movie now. I'm just like, we're 2 hours in, you don't introduce more characters at this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he did that because was such a long movie that you could do that. You could introduce characters like an hour in, because they did that with Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa's not introduced
I'm
until
okay
like an
with
hour and a half in.
But that big fat dude, he shows up like 2 hours into the movie, and he becomes like a main character.
He does.
And I'm just like, I don't even know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Affiliated with and stuff like that. And I'm just like, there's just too much going on. And I can't keep like the women straight because like the daughters start growing up, and I'm like, I don't know who's who now.
Yeah.
And like he switches wives in the movie, and I got confused with that too. There's just a lot of not characters per se, I guess, but there's just a lot of actors in this. And I just get confused with who's who because people are getting older and we jump back and they're younger. And it's just,
we're constantly going through different time periods and everyone's different. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
There's no like dates for things. So
when it goes to like when Robert De Niro's 20, it just cuts and he's younger and you don't really know like when it takes place.
It's fine because when they cut back and forth, I can tell a difference. But once it starts getting closer and closer to where like the present, I would say it's kind of hard to figure out. All right, it's like, are we in the past or in the present? I think there's a line where I see it where I'm like, okay, we're in the present. This is actually happening now. But it was getting a little confusing for a little bit when Robert De Niro was like getting gray hair and stuff. Like, okay, he's getting older. Like I could tell time's passing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. That personally for me, that was my biggest gripe about the movie.
Do you have any other gripes?
None that I can think of off the top of my head. The runtime really wasn't that bad. It didn't feel. It felt like everything in it was needed. I don't think you could cut anything in it and would make it better or worse.
Yeah, I've heard some people complain about the runtime and they say that like the movie just kind of drags and it didn't need to be 3.5 hours. But I think the whole point of the movie is the fact that everything's so slow and it is long because you're supposed to kind of, the way that Robert De Niro at the end kind of reflects on everything and all the shit that he's done. I think the 3.5 hour runtime really puts us in that position where we get to really reflect on everything that's happened and we get to see it from his perspective. And there is a lot of just talking in the movie, but I think it's very important to establish these characters' relationships with each other. So when something does happen to them later on, you're like, oh, fuck.
I was going to say, I think you need all that, the buildup, I guess, like of all these people they've killed, all this stuff and how they got to this point where they're at. And then obviously the drop off that happens at the end with the drop off the cliff stuff. But yeah, I thought the runtime was perfectly fine the way it was. I'm trying to think if there's anything you could cut, and I can't think of anything.
I mean, I think you could. I don't think the movie necessarily needed to be 3 hours. I think you still could have done the same thing in like maybe 2.5 hours and just tighten it up a little bit. But I like the fact that it was 3.5 hours, so it could be a little bit slower, and we didn't really have to rush through a whole lot of stuff. It could just be, hey, here's these guys talking, here's this conversation, there you go. And I like that I was just in it, and I didn't care how long the conversations went. I just wanted to hear more.
And I think it being a Netflix movie helped with that because I don't think a theater movie would have let it be 3.5 hours, especially for this kind of movie that's not a Marvel movie that they know is not going to make $2 billion. Yeah. So I think that Netflix helped with that.
How did you feel about the digital de-aging?
I personally didn't see any issues with it. I know you mentioned that it was a little iffy towards the beginning or something.
I think there's some when like the scene early on where De Niro's like driving the truck and we see him as like a truck driver early on, that I was like, this doesn't look great. But he's supposed to be, I think, like 20 in that scene. And I think maybe that's why, because they're really de-aging him like a lot. But then when like later on when we see him for the majority of the movie, he's probably like 45, 50. He looked great. And I think that's because they're not de-aging him like too much.
I was going to say, I didn't see any flaws in it even when he was in his 20s. Maybe it's your poopy TV or something. I don't know.
I don't know. It might be. But it just looked off because I know that's not his face and that's not what he looked like when he was 20. So it's it looked like his mouth was moving kind of weird. And I was just like, this just doesn't look right to me.
Also, he had his hat on, and I think that helped a little.
He did.
De-aging because you didn't see his hair and stuff like that.
But I think at one point it just kind of they kind of found their stride with it, and it looks great. And also it might have also just been a point where like all the dialogue and the characters were so interesting that I didn't really care. I was just kind of in it, and I was like, all right, cool. I like these characters. Like, I don't give a fuck what they look like. That might have been in as well. I don't know.
And for people who don't know, the people who did the de-aging in this are the people who do the Marvel de-aging. So I think they had some practice before they did this movie, which probably helped a little bit with that. Because a lot of this movie, like half the movie, he's de-aged in some little way.
A majority of the movie, he's like in his like 40s or whatever.
Yeah, he's de-aged. Maybe just not like a crap ton, but he's de-aged.
Yeah. Which another one of my gripes that I have is that there are several points when you can see like that tracking shot when Robert De Niro goes into that like grocery store and beats up that guy.
Yeah,
you know what scene I'm talking about? The way he beats up that guy and the way he moves, he doesn't quite move like a 40-year-old. He kind of looks like an 85-year-old man.
I
was like, that's a little like
when I watched that, I was like, I could totally see. I was like, he's not actually hitting that guy. He's not kicking him. Like, it was just really obvious for some reason. Because the way he would like kick and the guy wouldn't really react, he'd just like sit there. It took me out of it just a little, but that's like towards the beginning, so it wasn't really
yeah.
But
and there was some very obvious like stunt doubles. Like there was one bit where Jimmy Hoffa was like attacked by somebody and he falls on the ground. I was like, that's not Al Pacino, because Al Pacino's a 78-year-old man and he would have had a heart attack.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's a Netflix movie, so I don't expect it to be perfect when it comes to all that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't expect any movie to be perfect, but it just I noticed it enough that it took me out just briefly.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Is there any other gripes though you had with it?
I think some of the characters are kind of underdeveloped. Like I think his daughter, his like main daughter that we focus on, could have been a little bit more developed. Yeah, because at one point Anna Paquin comes in and plays his daughter when she's like an adult, and she has like 2 lines in the movie. And I understand that their relationship is kind of supposed to be kind of not great, and that's kind of the point. But it's like, we never really get to know his daughter enough to when what happens with the relationship happens that we really care all that much. And I think if we saw a little bit more of her and how she kind of felt about all this stuff, and maybe she had a conversation with her dad about all this stuff, when that moment initially hits, it would have been like, oh fuck, like this is hitting right now.
I don't know if I missed something, but did we establish why we focused on that daughter specifically? Out of all 4 of them, we just
they kind of just skip over the other ones.
Yeah, that was
for some reason, which is strange.
I don't know if I missed something. I was like, oh, that's like his actual daughter or something, or the other one.
I don't think they ever say, because I noticed that same thing as well, because there's one scene later on in the movie where he goes to another one of his daughters.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's this? Like, who is it? Like,
yeah. So I didn't know why we were focusing just mainly on Peggy, which I do know why, because at the end I understand why. But like, why don't we focus on any of the other ones?
Yeah, it's weird.
Which I guess maybe that's historically accurate that he had 4 children, but like you could change that to make it he just only had 1.
I mean, even if they did want to keep it historically accurate, I think make them like show their relationship in some kind of way. I think one of the biggest problems I have with the story is the fact that when that moment at the end happens, it doesn't hit as hard as it should, because we never really saw him have a relationship with any of his daughters. Really, they kind of they say that like, oh, his daughters, he never really like had a thing with them or whatever. But if we saw it, that it would have impacted the end, I think, for me a little bit more.
I think it was still sad, but like, yeah,
it's still a good ending, but it definitely would have been like, oh fuck, like it would have just been that extra like leap.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it could have been more. I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%. I don't think there's any other gripes I have though with it, to be honest.
I don't have any like major gripes. I think there are some bits that it did kind of slow down for me a little bit towards the middle. It picked back up almost immediately after, but there was a point where I kind of started to feel its length a little bit, and I was like, all right, like we need to start getting going, because I'm starting to feel this a little bit. And I think that I honestly, it would have been kind of cool if there wasn't really any action in the movie. I mean, there's not a lot, but like if we did cut out that scene of Robert De Niro beating up that guy, because we didn't really need it, and most of the other action bits in it we don't really need. I kind of like the fact that this wasn't like a gangster like action movie with a ton of explosions and gunfire and whatever. I like the fact that this was just a character piece, and I think we needed more just like character moments and less of like the mafia, like mob stuff.
I thought it was fine seeing him kill people and stuff like that. I thought that
I think it's fine and it serves the story, but I just think we could have used less of it, or they could have weaved it more into the story a little bit more, because there are some times when he just kills somebody and then they're never brought back up ever again in the story or whatever. And I think it would have been kind of cool if maybe some of those kills like come back to haunt him in some kind of way, other than just at the end when
I was gonna say towards
what happens.
He kills a couple people and you're like, we don't know who these people are. Then at the end he kills some people and you're like, we know who these people are.
Towards the end it matters because they're characters we know that are dying.
Yeah. But like there's a montage though in the beginning where he's just throwing guns into the river, which I thought that was kind of a neat way to show he's killing a bunch of people and stuff instead of actually showing him kill those people, which is kind of cool. My thing was like, where's he getting these guns? I had that question.
They're probably supplying them.
I know, but like, how do they not come back and trace them?
It's the mob, man.
I know, but
they got connections.
You can trace bullets back to guns. I don't know.
This is also like the 1940s or whatever.
It's true. It's true. What are your biggest pluses with this movie, though?
Biggest pluses, one is the cast. I think the cast of this was fucking awesome. It's almost, it's weird to say, but this felt very classy to me, where it's just like Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, like these big icons of like filmmaking, and they're like iconic actors, some of the most iconic actors of all time, just making this movie. The sets were all real and the lighting felt real, and it's just most of the movie is just conversations, and it felt like I was watching an older Martin Scorsese movie, and it felt like a classic, classy as fuck movie, and I really love that, and I love the tone of it, and I love the vibe of it. I also really liked how the movie looked. At one point I was kind of like, I don't really like how this looks, because it kind of looks like a TV movie. But I think that's the point, is that it's not supposed to be super like beautiful and flashy. It's supposed to look like real life. It's supposed to represent real life, because it's supposed to represent the horrors of real life and how shitty real life is. So I think that was an intentional choice. And at a point I realized that, and I was like, all right, I'm kind of in for this.
I don't know if this was just my shitty eyesight or not, but did they switch from going from digital to film when they went back and forth?
They might have. I wouldn't be surprised, because I know Martin Scorsese, I think they used 9 cameras when shooting this fucking movie. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I didn't notice that.
When it was like present, it just looked sharper. And then when it was in the past, it looked a little grainier. I was like, did they switch from?
They might have. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I didn't notice that at all. But they might have.
It very well could have been my shitty eyesight, but
it could have. I mean, my Netflix kind of constantly goes in and out of quality anyway, so I mean, I just probably missed it.
I don't know if they did or not, but I was just wondering if you knew if that happened.
I didn't notice it. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. They probably did.
So I thought if they did, that's a cool aspect. That like it's in the past, so it's obviously older. It's film, so I
also really liked the dialogue. There are so many scenes in this fucking movie.
Where it's like not written so well. Like,
there's nothing like
fantastic.
Major, like there's no like intense fucking like dialogue scenes, like Quentin Tarantino dialogue scenes where you're like expecting somebody to die. But it's all character building, and it's all just getting to know these characters so much to a point to where like you like a lot of these characters, and these characters are evil fucking people. But they're written so well that you like them, and you want them to kind of succeed. And like Jimmy Hoffa is like, he's such a good character in this movie, not only because of Al Pacino's performance, but because of how he's written.
I was gonna say, I don't think any dialogue is wasted in this movie at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everything's just perfectly fitted into this little movie, I think. Not little movie, but movie.
And I've seen a lot of people say that like there's no like iconic scenes like there are in Goodfellas or whatever. And I was like, I don't necessarily think that makes the movie bad, because not every movie needs like a super iconic, memorable scene. And I think, I think there are iconic scenes in this. Like I think the scene towards the end when they're driving in the car and they're talking about that fish, I thought that was hilarious, and I'm like, that's a fucking great scene.
I don't know if that actually happened in real life, because I haven't heard anything about that, but it's kind of funny if it did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Speaking of that scene, Todd from Breaking Bad is in this movie. He's great.
I was actually surprised myself. I'm like, hey, it's Todd. I didn't know you were in this movie.
Hell yeah.
And he's creepy as shit in Breaking Bad.
He's creepy as shit and everything.
Yeah, so I was fine with him being in this movie. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into, I guess, spoilery territory?
I mean, not really. I really enjoyed this movie. I'd watch it again. I didn't like love it. Like I think it's like a perfect movie and it's like my favorite or anything. But I really, really loved it.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no perfect movie, but
there are some. Swiss Army Man's a perfect movie.
No, it's not. It has flaws.
So it's a movie about farts, Devin. It's perfect.
Exactly. It's a movie about farts. But I guess we're going spoilers.
Spoilers. If you haven't seen it, turn off the video now. Go watch the movie, and then come back 3.5 hours later and listen to what we have to say about spoilers.
So, I don't know if you got this vibe when I was watching, but towards the beginning-ish, Russell was very rapey, feel towards Peggy. I don't know why. I just like got that vibe a little bit.
I got that a little bit.
I was like,
and I think that's something that was also kind of dropped because it never really comes back. There's a point where like she doesn't like say thank you or whatever, and he's just like, all right, like whatever, and then it never comes back after that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe like something like he was gonna kill her or something was gonna happen, but they just kind of dropped that, and that was kind of weird.
I got like a rapey vibe for some reason out of that. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know what the intention was of that. But I don't know. That was my biggest question with that scene. I don't know if there's anything towards the begin or towards the middle that's kind of spoilery that I can think of.
No, I mean, there's not a whole lot you could really talk about with spoilers. I think the ending.
You don't know how Jimmy Hoffa ends. The ending is spoiler.
Well, yeah, and I mean I don't think that's accurate because part of what makes the book like a topic of controversy is the fact that like Frank Sheeran, who wrote the book, says like, oh, he died this way, and everyone's like, is that true? Like we don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody really knows, but that's probably what happened. I like the way Jimmy Hoffa fucking died in the movie. It was very sudden and just like matter of fact, and then I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and I kind of felt bad for Jimmy Hoffa, even though he's this bad dude. Like he got shot by his buddy. Like, yeah, this guy he trusted. Which a lot of people
I felt bad for every character in this movie, even though they're all horrible monsters.
Yeah, like even though people think that he was killed by somebody he knew in real life, nobody knows how he died and what happened. If he's even dead, I'm sure he is.
Well, he'd
dead.
be dead by now.
I'm sure he is dead, but
yeah,
who knows? Nobody knows what happened. Also, did they film in the actual house that it took place? Because I've seen pictures of that house and it looks dead up like it did in the movie.
They might have. I haven't heard anything about that, but they might have.
Because they think that house is where Al Pacino died. They'd have no proof that's where he died, but they've done investigations there, and I've seen that house in pictures and in other like documentaries and stuff, and it looks exactly right. So if they built that set, good on them because it looks perfect.
They might have just shot like the exteriors of the house and then built a set to shoot the interiors.
Maybe
they could have did that. I don't know.
It looks damn good. So I props to the set design and whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. I do feel bad for all these characters, especially I feel bad for Al Pacino just because he dies. Or not Al Pacino, but Jimmy Hoffa just because he dies. And then I feel bad for De Niro just because the whole movie is just like a big sad film for him.
Yeah, because I love the fact that it wasn't, because I kind of went into the movie expecting like Goodfellas, like just this hyper, like super action heavy, not action heavy, but like it's super fast and like everything's all like shiny and it's kind of glorifying mobsters in a way. But instead I got this like really kind of interesting character piece about this aging mob guy who just kind of regrets everything he's done. And then at the end of his life, when everyone is gone and he has nobody to talk to, he's just like, well, fuck. Like I did all this shit and I can't, like, what was the point of it? You know? I think that's great.
Like he doesn't have family. I mean, he has family, but they don't want to talk to him.
Yeah, they don't talk to him.
All of his buddies they died before he did. He was the last one. So I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
I feel bad that he had to kill his buddy though too, with Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know why he didn't like question it at all. Like Russell just told him like, "Hey, go do
Well,
that."
I mean, to me, it seemed like he had a loyalty to Russell, and I don't think he was ever really like truly friends with Jimmy Hoffa. I think it was part of the job.
I think he was a little bit. He was buddies with him a little. He felt a little
Maybe.
remorse for it.
He definitely felt remorse for it, but I don't think I think that might have been after, like right after he killed him, he realized like, oh fuck, I actually do care about him. But I think in the moment he was just like, I'm doing a job, I have to do this and whatever. And I do really like that scene right after he kills him when he's talking on the phone with his wife and he's just stuttering and he can't get the words out. Like you can tell he wants to say what he did, but he's just like, I can't. I thought that was a really well done scene.
I don't know if he actually killed him in real life, but I don't know if he actually kept that secret. And maybe he did tell somebody. Who knows?
I don't know.
If he did,
I mean, he wrote a whole book about it.
Right. But like he said in the book, he doesn't come out and say that, oh, I did it.
Yeah.
It's kind of open-ended to what happened. But I think it's a good story, though. Even though it's based on true events, I think it's a good movie story.
Yeah, I think it totally works just on its own.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it is fact and how much of it is fiction.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people think the book is like largely fiction anyway. So
yeah, it still works as a movie.
It's a good movie.
Is there anything else you wanna say?
I mean, not really. I mean, it's a very simple movie about just like regretting the things you've done in your life. It's not like super complex or complicated or action heavy or anything. It definitely does have its flaws. Some bits where the 70-year-old men have to act like they're younger definitely stand out and definitely are noticeable. But it didn't take away from the movie for me because I was still into the story and into the characters, and it didn't like ruin the movie. I know a lot of people have been like pointing out they've been pointing out that clip of De Niro like hitting the guy, and they're like, really, like this is a fucking movie, and everyone's like praising it. I'm like, that's one scene in a 3.5-hour movie. Right. It has tons of other great scenes in it. Like, yeah, that scene's awkward, but the rest of the movie isn't.
It's also towards the beginning, so you kind of forget about it later on. That I forgot to talk about this, but how'd you feel about Jimmy Hoffa's ice cream fetish he has going on?
Yeah, that was great. There was one I think it was a line in the movie or something where he's just like, all he cared about was his damn ice cream. And I was like, yeah, that's so cool.
Well, I think Jimmy Hoffa says it at one point. He's like, I just wanted to eat my ice cream in peace.
Yeah, when he's talking to Tony Pro or whatever. Tony Pro's like, hey, you need to help me with this. He's like, go away. I just want to eat my ice cream and be left alone.
Which I think that was actually a true thing. Like Jimmy Hoffa did actually
probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
Ice cream.
Jimmy Hoffa was kind of a weird guy.
It's kind of funny. Like they could have just kept that out of the movie. They didn't need it.
Yeah, but it was a fun character trait.
It was, and it's something that I would do. I feel like if I was a gangster, I'd be like, I need something.
And I think another like iconic scene. Everyone's talking about, oh, this movie's not iconic or whatever. The scene when Tony Pro shows up to that meeting late, and Pacino's just like, I never once waited for anyone more than 10 minutes of my life. It's like, oh, well, maybe 15 max. No, 10 minutes. I'm like, that's a great conversation between two just characters don't like each other at all.
I could
like
feel
this was
the
really
tension.
fun.
I could feel the tension in the air.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
I thought there was a good tension in the middle of I think it was in the middle of the movie when the wife is sitting in the car and she's like debating whether to turn the key. I'm like, oh, I really like that.
That was really good. When it just does the flash of an explosion. Yeah. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I was like, because as soon as she put the key in, I was like, wait. I was like, do you know if? And then she thought about it too.
I stopped and I was like, wait, why didn't she turn the car? And then I was like, oh, because mobsters always rig your car to explode. And she thought of that too. And I was like, that's actually kind of clever and that's kind of smart.
It was, and it's kind of a throwaway scene that doesn't really add much, but I like it. I like it's in there. I like it. I don't know.
It's a good scene.
I thought she did blow up for a split second.
That's in there for a reason.
I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit. Oh no, she made it. It's okay. It's all right. But overall, I give it best movie of the year so far for me. That's my opinion.
That's fair. I mean, it's definitely it's fucking Martin Scorsese. The man, even if the man made shit, it's still better than fucking some of the best movies ever made. So I mean, like it's to not like this movie, like you have to be like the biggest asshole on the planet.
I was gonna say,
it's a great film.
Going into it, I thought it was gonna be a lot of fluff. I was like 3.5 hours.
I thought that too, but You definitely could trim some stuff down a bit to make it a little shorter, but I like the fact that it's 3.5 hours because you can really just like get into the world and just forget about everything and just be like, I'm in this and I'm
I was gonna
totally in this
say,
for the ride and whatever.
I don't think you could trim stuff, but I don't think the movie would be as good as a whole if you trim stuff
Yeah,
on it.
I think it needed to be 3 hours, especially for that ending, that matter of fact, just like hard cut to the end.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
needed that all that 3.5 hour build up to get to that point where you're just like, fuck, like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree with that. I don't think there's anything else I want to say that I can think of right now, at least.
I mean, that's really it. It's a great film. Watch it on Netflix. If you need to watch it in parts, but
Yeah.
I watched it all in one setting and it was great.
So did I. You kept telling me split it up. I'm like, nah, I don't want
Well,
to.
because I didn't know how you'd feel about the 3.5 hour thing. Because
I'm fine with watching long movies as long as they keep me entertained for 3.5 hours.
yeah,
Like I'm not gonna go watch Dancing with Wolves. It's like a 6-hour movie.
well, that's it's 4.5 hours and Kevin Costner's dumb hair.
Yeah. So like I don't want to watch that. But if you're doing a movie about gangsters and it's interesting, I'm gonna watch it for 3.5 hours. I did pause it for a little to get snacks, but other than that,
That's fair.
I watched it all at once, basically.
I hope this movie comes out on Blu-ray. I hope it's one of the few Netflix things that gets released on Blu-ray, just because I want to add it to my Scorcese collection. Probably won't because fuck physical media.
You'll bootleg it and download it onto a disc.
I might have to, but either way, I'm gonna fucking add it to the collection.
I don't know if I'd rewatch it again anytime soon. I need a break. Long movies like that, I need breaks.
Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna like pop it in like right now and watch it again. I feel like this might be a movie I watch every like couple years, just to like revisit some scenes and stuff. Like I'll definitely rewatch this, but not immediately.
Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a long movie, and I didn't like it, so that's a reason why I won't watch it again. But it was just if I were to watch it again, I would definitely need a break. It's just that type of movie, and like there was just a lot in The Irishman. I'm like, I don't want to rewatch it again. Like, it's a lot to take in. I need to digest it a little more before I would want to watch it again.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies that you can definitely like pick scenes out of and just watch those scenes, like on YouTube or something. You can just watch, like, I just want to watch that scene again where Pacino's ranting about his ice cream, and you just watch that.
The meeting scene, you could watch that again. Like it's just there's little things you could watch in it, but overall, it's good. It's good.
It's really good. It's great.
We recommend it.
I recommend it. Go watch The Irishman.
You know, I don't care whether you did it or not. That makes no difference to me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm here to defend you, right?
Right. What do you want to know? You want to know if I did it or not?